Hi, I'm David Essel, and welcome to our 15th book, Lessen Your Burdens and Lift Your Spirits. Learn how to create your own spiritual mental mastermind program to increase the inner peace we all desire. This is a book that's so close to my heart. I cannot wait for you to listen to the entire thing. And when you follow the program that we created in 1980, believe it or not, following Napoleon Hill and his book, Think and Grow Rich, all of a sudden something went off in my head. And I'll read about it in the story as we get into the book. But as you follow this program religiously, just for a few minutes every morning, you'll be shocked to see how your life can change, how we can lessen our burdens, even in this crazy world, and lift our spirits. Dedication. I dedicate this book with every ounce of love that I have to my sister and brother, who are two of the most deeply spiritual and religious people I know. They depend on their faith to help them through their own daily challenges, as well as so many people they've both helped over the past many, many years. They've always been in my corner, no matter what I'm facing. They're always there supporting, loving, and encouraging me to strengthen my faith as well. But the most remarkable feat that both of these individuals were able to do with their faith and their spiritual practices was to care for my mom and dad when they were both dying. And the process took about 4 years. But regardless of how long it took or how much they struggled trying to help both my mom and dad who were dying at the same time, my sister Mary Diane and my brother Terry were absolute spiritual warriors. What they were able to do with the faith that they both learned from my mom and dad is absolutely stunning to watch. I watched from a distance. I live many, many miles from my family, so my brother and sister took over for everything that I might have been able to do in the physical world. I prayed for my parents. I would contact them as much as possible, but it was my sister and brother who are the real heroes here. This book, completely committed to the world of spiritual and religious growth, could not be dedicated to any two people more loving and caring than my sister Mary Diane and my brother Terry. I love you both, David. Let's go right into chapter 1. Why this book is so needed right now. Our world seems to be falling into complete chaos. Week after week, another war, another round of COVID, inflation, political insanity. Need I go on? We need tools to ground ourselves as we traverse these choppy waters called life. This book, if we use the principles discussed on a daily basis, will help us rise above the madness to create success and peace to our own day-to-day spiritual practices, our day-to-day lives. Isn't that what we all want? To be able to have the tools and resources necessary that when we get hit by stressful experiences, we don't emotionally overreact initially. We fall back and use these powerful principles in order to regain emotional regulation. In regards to regaining confidence, inner peace, hopefulness, service, compassion, forgiveness, everything that can bring us to a new level can only be achieved by adding new spiritual tools on a regular basis. And when you find the ones that really rock, like this one, you will not want to let it go. This book and this program is all about deepening your personal spiritual connection for more peace, less suffering, and even more joy. In my 43 years of work in the world of spirituality, counseling, personal growth, and more, I have yet to ever see the amount of suffering that's going on right now in regards to relationships, finances, career, and more. And grieving. In the last number of years, so many of us lost friends and family members to either COVID or accidents or whatever it might be. And it's a difficult thing when the human brain is hit with so much loss back to back. But if we utilize the program in this book, it will not eliminate your challenges for life or yourself, but instead, it will give you an outlet to follow in order to minimize the suffering, minimize the stress, and maximize your connection to Source, to God, to whatever name you would like to use. As an all-faith minister for many years, I welcome all faiths, all believers. I even welcome people that don't believe, that just want to decrease their stress, and because this will work for them as well. I cannot shut the door on anyone. It's not my nature. It would be out of integrity for me to only focus on a certain group of people when the entire world needs the exercise that you will read about in this book. And if you are skeptical, not believing that by creating an inner dialogue with experts in the area of spiritual growth, that you can start to heal immediately, your skepticism is understandable. If you're reading this and you think, oh, it's too good to be true, continue reading. I think you'll be convinced by the end of the book that this is real and it works if you work it. And the first time I was introduced to this concept was in 1980. I was slightly skeptical as well. A mentor of mine gave me the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And as I'm reading it, I get to the chapter where he talks about, quote, creating mental mastermind groups to enhance your business, end quote. And as I'm reading his words, I'm thinking, quote, mental mastermind group, end quote, question mark. What the heck is that? I've been involved in mastermind groups, even in college, but it was always people sitting in a room together, oftentimes in a circle, with the mediator who would bring up a question, and then individuals would give their answers for someone who is struggling in the room. But this type of mastermind group was completely different. As Napoleon Hill in his book went on to describe, he was calling in business experts from the past, those who were no longer on earth, and asking them specific questions to help him grow his business. After reading that section on how I could utilize this for my business, I decided to create my own, quote, spiritual mental mastermind program, just like Napoleon Hill did for business. And as you read later on in the book, we will teach you how to set the program up, who to invite, how often to do it, and for how long. It wasn't long after I was following Napoleon Hill's advice, but instead of business, I did it in the spiritual world. I started getting answers from out of the blue, and it still goes on today. Every morning, I still call all of my members of my spiritual mental mastermind program together, asking them questions and getting feedback. It's absolutely stunning what can happen when you put the time in, and it doesn't take a lot of time. Before I do anything else in the morning, I am completely engaged with my mastermind program, my spiritual mental mastermind program, to deepen my spiritual understanding every morning. It is that powerful. It is that effective. And you can do this exercise in as little as 5 minutes every morning. Or over time, you may love this exercise so much that, like me, it turns into an hour session or even longer every morning. I love it. And the results are incredible. And we're talking about from 1980 to today, the results have been incredible. A greater understanding of life, a greater understanding of solutions to our current challenges, a greater belief in something bigger than ourselves, a safe haven to go to with our challenges, fears, insecurities, and more. You're in a safe zone, surrounded by incredibly safe people, entities, because in your spiritual mental mastermind program, you can be surrounded, as well as we'll tell you later on, with angels and saints, or any type of spiritual or religious symbol that is important to you, or a person that is important to you. It could even be an author still alive today that you've learned so much from. Bring them into your group. There's no limit to how you can have, or how many you can have, in your own personal spiritual mental mastermind program. A deeper spiritual program that will deepen your faith during times of challenges and suffering, like most of us are going through right now. Faith equals, quote, belief in the yet unseen, end quote. This powerful mental and spiritual exercise will profoundly deepen your faith and lighten your load when done regularly. And remember this, you will be communicating through your mind with a group of spiritual or religious leaders and experts that you can ask any question or share any problem with, who will silently guide you to the options that will help you to grow. And you can even do this in your own bed. Let's use tools like this to help lessen the suffering, the stress, the fatigue, and the overwhelm so many of us are facing right now. Help is here. End of chapter questions. Now, do not pass this section without filling out on a piece of paper or wherever you are the answers, because this is an incredibly important part of your journey. Number one, what was covered in detail in this chapter? Number two, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number three, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and spiritual health, determination, faith, willpower, and more? Answering these questions helps you take more out of every chapter than just reading them alone. Chapter 2. What exactly is a spiritual mental mastermind program? Well, first, let's look at this as an incredible opportunity to ask for help. Now, you must be vulnerable. This is a great opportunity to be honest with yourself, what you need to be changing or what you need to be letting go of. This is where so many get lost. They try to deal with so much grief and suffering by themselves instead of asking for help. A spiritual mental mastermind program is a tool to use daily to ask your spiritual guides, more on this later, specific questions on your current challenges. Be honest, 100% honest. Do not be embarrassed and hold back asking anything that's important that you need help with right now. If it's an addiction, perfect place to get help. A relationship gone south, a perfect place to get help. Or maybe it's trying to deal with emotions like anger or rage or insecurity or a lack of confidence. Or it could be a struggling with codependency, a lack of faith. Your guides, please trust me with this, can help direct you to books or people that could help you via their internal messages that you will receive on a time-to-time basis. It's not a magic bullet. It doesn't mean that every time you ask a question, you're going to get an immediately perfect answer. But this is where patience and persistence will pay off. Imagine that this is a powerful group that you get to go to in your mind every day, a group of spiritual experts to help you navigate through your challenges and suffering. Always remember, you are never, ever alone. And yes, some people will say you're crazy. I remember a number of years ago when I was explaining this to a client who eventually became a great fan of this program when he said to me, quote, "Seriously, David, every morning you surround yourself with people that may have passed on and you get messages to help you heal and grow? Come on," end quote. I laugh as I remember that conversation because it was only 2 weeks later when he had a session with me and he was blown away at the information he had received regarding a difficult place that he was in life through his own spiritual mastermind group. So the answer is yes. I've been doing this every morning since 1980 and I'll never stop. You would not believe the number of times I get a flash of inspiration from out of nowhere. Sometimes a book I've never read will pop into my head by simply asking the group questions. Or just the other day, the title of a book that I read 20 years ago came instantly into my mind, and it was exactly what I needed at that moment. Be open-minded. Give this a shot for a period of at least 60 days. Even 5 to 10 minutes a day is fantastic. It's time to greatly deepen your spiritual path. It's time to get the answers you have wanted for so long. They are right around the corner. Keep reading and have faith. End of chapter questions. Do not pass this section without answering the questions below. This is an incredibly important part of your journey. Number 1, what was covered in detail in this chapter? Number 2, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number 3, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and spiritual health, determination, willpower, and more? Answer these questions before you go on to the next chapter. Chapter 3, what are the real benefits of a spiritual mental mastermind program? Let's go through a bunch of them. Number 1, it's an opportunity to create a powerful communication with God, Source, and so many other incredibly intelligent and loving spiritual and religious teachers and leaders. Number 2, you do not have to suffer alone. There's no need. They are there waiting for you to ask them for guidance. Number 3, positive daily patterns and rituals in life gives us a sense of being grounded. This, quote, grounded feeling, unquote, will bring more logic into our lives, a better understanding of emotional control, and obviously a greater opportunity to feel in the moment, in the present, where all of life lives. Number 4, the more you communicate with these amazing guides, the more confident you will feel in every area of life. Number 5, you may end up calling in certain people into your group that you know just almost nothing about. Use this as information to read more about their lives, which may very easily draw you closer to their path, but more importantly, to your path. Finally, Teachers with so much experience in your mental mastermind conversations can easily raise your level of human consciousness. That is just amazing to think about, of understanding suffering and how we get attached to suffering, which unfortunately is a real fact in life. But this suffering and the ability to recognize it, to deal with it, to work with it, is what the masters have been trying to teach us for years. Trying to avoid the suffering with television, alcohol, food, workaholism, depression, anxiety, or fill in the blank will only deepen the suffering and make it more challenging to release it down the road. We may see through our conversations or reading about our spiritual mentors that they have also had extremely challenging lives and then found their own solution when we follow their wisdom. Two names that instantly pop into my head when it comes to individuals with outrageously spiritual strength that went through incredible challenges. And there are millions of these types of people, of course. But what comes to mind would be the story of Job from the Bible or the Dalai Lama getting forced out of his own spiritual home country. Now, in both of these examples, they did not shy away from the suffering, for it was the suffering that led them on a journey to healing. Amazing. And the same, with commitment, I guarantee it, can happen to you. Let's remember the amazing benefits by following this program on a regular basis. We obviously are going to create a closer relationship with our higher power, but also with ourselves. That feeling of community. You're surrounded by amazing individuals with all kinds of knowledge and inspiration. And I have to repeat this, you are never alone. Regardless of what you're going through, remember, you are never alone. This can be used when we are in a spiritual crisis, feeling lost and unsure of our own life path. And it's a form of self-love. Whenever we take the time for ourselves to go deeper into loving ourselves with a program like this, we start to view ourselves differently. Our identity, that we're simply a human with all kinds of limitations, slowly gets eroded until you eventually come to the point where you realize you are an amazingly powerful and beautiful, spiritually based individual. And we're willing to be very vulnerable with this group of spiritual experts that we're going to surround ourselves with. We can discuss any mental health challenge, any physical challenge, any relationship challenge, any financial challenge, any spiritual challenge, any addiction challenge. They are here to help us grow. They're here to help us grow into our true self, not the false self that society has told us or people have told us what we are, but the true self, the loving self, the determined self. Yes, the benefits are endless. You could start to find yourself calmer. You may feel more compassion for yourself as well as others. You may find a willingness to slow down, to take time, to connect with the deepest source of everything that's available in this world. It is time, and I'm so glad you're with us. End of chapter questions. Remember, this is so important to do this before you move on. It's an incredibly important part of your journey. Number one, what was covered in detail in this chapter? Number two, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number three, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and spiritual health, determination, willpower, and more? Remember to slow down and answer these questions before you move on. Chapter 4, how do we create our spiritual mental mastermind program? This is getting exciting. I always advise clients when teaching the spiritual mental mastermind program to put initially everything in writing. Remember, this is an incredibly powerful program, can be used for anything that might be blocking your spiritual connection right now. Let's take a look at some of the basic questions to write down so we know the initial direction we would like to go. As you move through challenges and suffering, the topic you first choose will mentally be dealt with. And so then we just look for the next challenging aspect of our existence, and then we switch to that so that we can move through that challenge as well. Of course, there's always going to be challenges in life. So this is a never-ending process, but that's not bad news. It's actually good news. We have created a program knowing that a human being is going to go through many challenges in life that you can use on a daily basis for any problem to bring you closer to source, closer to your spiritual connection, closer to God, closer to universal love. Note, a deeper spiritual path can help guide you through challenging situations in every area of life. Yet, when we have a powerful foundation spiritual tool like the one in this book, we approach these challenges with an incredible circle of spiritual mentors to ask for guidance. Life does become more logical, more beautiful, and the challenges that we are facing start to fade away quicker than just letting them sit and imagining that somehow time will heal them. Here's the big news: time heals nothing by itself. Time plus work heals, but time by itself will not bring us very far in life. It's just like when an athlete realizes that they have reached a challenge in their sport, they will seek out mentors who have overcome the same challenge. Here, we are relying on a team of powerful spiritual experts and teachers that you create. They are your mentors in life, helping you through all challenges and all challenging situations. There's a great book by a mentor of mine, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, that I recommend if you want more information on this type of program, Exuding the Power of Spirituality. His book, There's a Spiritual Solution for Every Problem, is an amazing read. So before we begin the practice, let's look at just a few of the challenges that could be helped with this type of exercise. Number one, who am I? Really, who am I in this world? Number two, why am I here? What is my real purpose? Number three, what is the purpose of a human being in general? What's the purpose of our existence in general? Now, these are incredibly powerful questions, esoteric questions about life, that at one point in our advancement, we will want to spend time with. But wait, before we focus on questions like this that are so huge, let's start with some challenges that are currently creating suffering, like grief, anger, rage, self-sabotage, procrastination, lack of integrity, breaking promises, deep financial challenges, a problem with your career choice. As you can see, we can go on and on and on. Challenges with children, challenges with family members, challenges with low confidence or codependency, addictions to food, social media, alcohol, drugs, video games, and I'm only just starting. The key first is to find that personal challenge that is negatively affecting your life and to go to work with your spiritual mental mastermind program right now. Whether it takes 1 or 30 days to get the answers you want, be patient. In 40 plus years of doing this exercise every morning, when I focus on the most challenging issue at this moment, 100% of the time I will get an internal message that is always the very next step for me to take. And it works. Just recently, as I asked my spiritual mental mastermind participants what the next step for me to take in my career, this book that you're reading popped into my head after just 3 days of asking my group of spiritual mentors what book to do next. And it's a very powerful answer, because this will help the world that is filled with suffering, challenges, and more. I am on board. And I do believe that by taking the time and getting quiet in the morning and calling in these spiritual mentors, that they will continue to give me the guidance with the next challenge I'm facing as well. But I must be patient, just like you. Sometimes it takes a little while before we get clear answers. But remember this, if you're getting the same answer from your spiritual mental mind group on your current challenge, but you don't want to do whatever is being recommended, I would ask you to slow way down. Many times, the key to moving through challenges is doing exactly what we don't want to do. It's normal. But if you're guided like I know you will be, you will never be guided to make a wrong move. Face the reality, face the challenges, ask for help. Healing will occur. Note now for some really positive news. Once you commit to this program daily, you will start to feel uplifted, knowing that you're never alone. You will, maybe as quickly as even 7 days, start to feel stronger about yourself because you're taking action versus sitting in your challenges. You're a rock star for utilizing tools to help yourself get out of difficult situations. But remember, if you ever need a professional, if you're having suicidal thoughts or anything like that whatsoever, bypass all of this and immediately get in with an expert to help you heal. There are limitations to what we can do in the physical and spiritual world, which is why we have the physical world to help us when we can't complete tasks through spiritual practices. Please don't keep your head in the sand, thinking that the more prayer you do will heal something really deep and serious. Prayer and guidance is powerful, but sometimes we need more. Maybe an amazingly destructive health issue needs to be handled by medical professionals. Never forget this. Now, getting back to the benefits for you, remember, you're going to feel an increase in confidence by following this program. Great for you. Keep going. I want you to be so confident that you have this type of program to follow when you're hitting one challenge after another, one form of suffering after another. I'm excited because the answers on your journey to the suffering and challenges are here right now. Let's go. End of chapter questions. Please do not move forward until you've answered these questions. Number one, what was covered in detail in this chapter? Number two, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number three, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and physical health, determination, willpower, and more? Chapter 5, how often and for how long should we engage with our spiritual mental mastermind program? This is such a great question, and I want to make sure that you don't utilize an excuse like, quote, I don't have the time, or I can't do it that many days a week, end quote. These excuses or statements, whatever you want to say, will greatly limit the potential benefits you could get from doing this program on a regular basis. Many times, the most important keys to success and overcoming challenges in life will demand us to create space, to create time in order to receive those benefits. It's just like someone trying to lose weight. They need to make time to exercise on a daily basis. They also need to make time to figure out how to shop for more clean eating foods, removing junk foods, fast food for real food. So our spiritual growth is based on the same principle. We need daily rituals that we follow as frequently as possible in order to receive the benefits that we want, the type of food we want, mentally and spiritually. Peace of mind, inner peace, a sense of knowing why you're here on earth. But also remember, this powerful program can help us with every day-to-day challenge that any human being faces right away: time. This seems to be a block to so many people when it comes to dropping self-sabotaging behaviors and adding new positive tools. Quote, I don't have time for that, David, end quote, is something I've heard over the years until my clients actually put this into practice, and then they're blown away. Before you know it, they're finding all kinds of time to do this exercise. I just love it. Let me calm your mind in regards to the amount of time to do this exercise. You can begin with as little as 5 minutes a day. I'm serious. If you were to settle yourself, I'll be giving you that information in a little bit. Get grounded and get in touch with the spiritual mentor or group of mentors. Even 5 minutes a day can be a place to begin. You're proving to yourself that you are worthy of healing by committing just 5 minutes a day. I have a good feeling, just like what happened with every other one of my clients with this exercise. If you begin with 5 minutes, within a short period of time, you can easily jump to 10 minutes or 20 minutes or even an hour every day. Number of days per week. Of course, we can always start out with 1 day a week. If you're going to do that, make sure it's the same day every week so you get into that kind of routine. But let's go back to the example I gave about someone wanting to lose weight. Could they go to the gym or walk an hour around their neighborhood once a week? Of course they could. Would they feel any benefit? Would they see any benefits on their body? Well, they will feel a benefit on the day they're walking because it releases positive endorphins in the brain. If they're thinking they're going to see weight loss by working out or walking 1 day a week, that probably won't happen. Now, back to your spiritual mental mastermind program. As I mentioned above, you can start with 1 day, but I'd highly recommend that you do at least 3 days a week, at least a commitment of 3 days a week to begin with. I've seen with clients that are limited with time, and I understand that. When they create this space for 3 days a week, it isn't long, and I'm smiling right now that, as I said just a minute ago, those 3 days turn into 4 days and then 5 days and more. The most important thing, is to begin now. So grab your pen and paper, write down how much time you're going to begin this program and how many days per week. And you can do it any time of the day that works for you. Early morning people, this is for you. Individuals that like to do these type of exercises at noon, excellent. What about 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Excellent. What about 6 o'clock at night? Excellent. What about 11 o'clock at night? Excellent. I'm not going to give you any outs here. It doesn't matter what time. Let's get into the program. Just remember this. If you're going to be doing any of these mental exercises in the evening, make sure that there are no mind-altering substances in your body. This can completely alter the connection that we're trying to ground ourselves in by having our mental state as clear as possible. Consistency is the key. When I started in 1980, I was doing 10 minutes every morning, 3 to 4 days a week. Within about 30 days, I felt the benefits were so strong that I immediately jumped to 7 days a week. Now remember, I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm still at 7 days a week, and many times those morning sessions go between an hour and an hour and a half. But this is not a competition. I don't need you to be thinking, oh my God, if he does that, I need to do it too. It's not necessary. Everybody is different. Some people can get by with just 10 minutes a day and get incredible benefits, while others find their amazing benefits begin after 30 minutes. Try different programs regarding time, different days of the week, until you find the one that works for you. Remember, consistency is the key. I'll keep mentioning that. Please never get frustrated if you don't receive monumental messages within the first couple of days. Patience is so crucial. Sometimes you might get a message to contact a friend of yours. You might think, what could Becky teach me about this incredible spiritual path? And then because you got the message during your session, you reached out to Becky and she says, quote, you wouldn't believe it. I just read the most incredible book to deepen my spiritual path. I love it. You might love it too, end quote. And then all of a sudden, we find that the person that we got that name from during our session actually had a message that was incredibly crucial for us. This happens frequently. Okay, now we're getting ready to set up your program. I am more excited than you might even know. This program has helped so many people break through challenges, deepen their spiritual connection, deepen their faith, their confidence, their self-esteem. The list goes on and on. You are in the exact right place you're supposed to be. Let's celebrate. End of questions, chapter questions. Number 1, make sure you fill these before we move forward. What was covered in detail in this chapter? Number 2, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number 3, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and spiritual health, determination, willpower, and more? Chapter 6. It's time to set up your spiritual mental mastermind program. Okay, here we go. The beginning leading to a very positive ending. Number 1, get grounded. Put yourself in a very quiet environment. Sitting up in bed is fine, or using a chair, but the seated position will allow us to stay more focused. Number 2, set your intention, which might sound something like this. Quote, thank you so much for joining me today and guiding me to answers for my highest good, end quote. Number 3, you can light a candle or incense if those type of activities bring a greater sense of spirituality into your being. Number 4, shut off all electronic devices, phones, TVs, computers, iPads. We don't want the physical world to be interfering with this immense work you're going to be doing with your spiritual mental mastermind program participants. Number 5, open your heart wide. See your heart expanding in your mind's eye. Number 6, once again, if you'd like to have your water or tea or juice or coffee next to you, that is absolutely fine. Number 7, take 3 slow, deep breaths. Exhale and bring in peace. Number 8, if constant thoughts keep interrupting you while you're working with your spiritual mental mastermind program, stop for a second. Take a big breath and exhale. Anytime we're starting a new program and it's asking us to be quiet, to be still, and we're not used to it, thoughts will regularly pop into your head. Quote, I need to make sure I remember my lunch, or I have something to take out of the freezer for dinner tonight I can't forget. Or it might be something like, oh, I forgot one of my children has a rehearsal tonight, end quote. These thoughts are normal. You're a human being. Until you've done the practice for quite a while, these thoughts may regularly pop up, and it's okay. It's totally okay. All we do is stop and say, oh, thought. No judgment, no worries, no concern. Now we go back to the group. If in the beginning of your practice you have to stop several times to take that big breath to reground yourself, it's totally perfect. We'll just learn how to roll with all of this. Number 9, have a pen and paper ready. Write out the questions for the greatest challenges you are facing right now. That would be step 1. Next, keep the pen and paper near you to write down any type of messages you might be receiving. Don't discount anything. Something that might seem strange, like, quote, begin a meditation program, end quote, when you've never meditated in your life, might be exactly what your guides need, that you need to know in order to shift your spiritual energy and power right now. Your spiritual guides may be spiritual teachers or authors you love, or a priest or a rabbi or a minister that you enjoy. Your spiritual guides may no longer be here on earth, but if you feel a connection with them, invite them into your circle. Now, close your eyes and imagine your heart opening as wide as possible. Then, one by one, mentally call each guide. Imagine them sitting in a circle around you. Some people have shared that they actually see the faces of their guides, while other people simply say they feel their presence. Either way is absolutely perfect. Take a moment to thank each of them for joining you. I have clients that choose only 2 spiritual guides, and then other clients will have a group of up to 20. In both cases, each person is correct. Whatever feels good to you, follow. This is not a competition in any form whatsoever. Then with your one main challenge in writing, ask the group, or you may just begin with asking one person in the group, how to deal with your number 1 challenge. Sit. Be quiet. Be open. Be patient. Regardless of what comes to mind, simply write it down. Sometimes answers come when we stay focused, listening intently. It may take 2 days or even a longer period of time to get a response that you recognize, and that's okay too. Don't try to push the river or force an answer that you might want to hear. Follow your breath in and out of your body. And as you have discussions with your group, this one move of breathing will help you stay centered. You may even say, quote, if anyone in my group has an answer for my challenge, feel free to send me that message now, end quote. It can happen. Be prepared. One client with 3 people in her group asked this question 2 days in a row, looking for any specific person to come forward. And to her shock, one did send a message that confirmed she was on the right path to minimize her suffering, and they gave her one additional small tip to help her along the way. Incredible, and she was overjoyed. Another client decided he wanted 2 people in his group, so he decided it was going to be for his business and spiritual growth, and he invited Elon Musk and Jesus Christ. Now, some people might think that's a strange undertaking, but remember, there's no limit, there's no rules. You have to follow your own gut, your own intuition to know who you want in the group. He had 2 exceptionally good reasons for wanting to have these 2 people in the group, and he may add more down the road. But the most incredible thing I hear from everyone every week is the answers they're getting from Elon Musk and Jesus Christ that are in complete alignment, bringing him to higher levels of confidence and success than he could have ever accomplished on his own. His business is booming. And yes, part of that reason is because of his groundedness with this spiritual mental mastermind program. And the same can happen to you. Below, I will list many guides that my clients have passed on to me, sharing with me how much they've helped them in their personal struggles, in their personal suffering. This is the opportunity to choose the type of guides that are right for you. If in this list you do not connect with any of the individuals my clients have used in the past, that is totally okay. Let's take a look at the many guides my clients have shared that have helped them immensely in the past. And as I just mentioned above, if you do not connect with any of these names, I'm sure you will find many on your own that feel closer to home. Here's the list that many of my clients have used, at least some of these people in their mental mastermind program. Jesus Christ, of course, God, Buddha, any and all saints, any and all angels, archangels, mentors, pastors, rabbis, ministers, priests, Krishna, friends or family with incredibly deep faith, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, authors like spiritual writer Ernest Holmes, or Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, or the Dalai Lama, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, writer Joel Goldsmith, minister and author Bruce Wilkinson, Paramahansa Yogananda, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Reverend Norman Vincent Peale, Muktananda, the Apostles, Mother Mary. I think you can see the list is endless. And this is just the beginning. I could have probably told you 20 more people that some of my clients have used in the past. But what's most important, who do you connect with? So take the time right now to begin your list. As I mentioned, there's no pressure at all to use any of the guides I've mentioned above, but it's crucial that you know who you're reaching out to. If at some point you feel you need to add more people, feel free to add more people. Or if you have a small group and you want to stay with that small group, that is absolutely perfect. Let me repeat. The most important thing is that we utilize this technique, this spiritual mental mastermind program, in a way to help us through these incredible challenging times. I understand the power of this exercise because I lost both my mother and father in the last 3 years. And it has been incredibly going through the grieving process. I also use the same spiritual guide program that I'm describing in this book when I lost my beloved dog, Saint. Saint was an emotional support dog who was in my counseling office almost every day of the week for years. Losing him was incredibly difficult as well. But what I found in working with my spiritual guides, that they were able to give me information that helped me through the grieving process. And this was immense. As an example, and this might sound pretty crazy, during one of my intense meetings with all of my guides after my mother died, they encouraged me to dig a huge garden for her, and I would plant her favorite plants. I would have never thought about this on my own. And then when my father died, it was the same thing. Within the first session, my guides were having me adding more to the garden representing my father. Now, eventually, sometimes down the road, I could have come up with these ideas, sure, but I'm not positive how long it might have taken for me to come to the conclusion without my guides. But the process was simple. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to overthink. I asked the questions and sat back and allowed answers to come in a day, a week, or a month. I was in no rush, and today it's the same thing. I have not missed a day in over 40 years, and I do not ever plan on missing a day because this exercise has been so profoundly beautiful and powerful for my own personal and professional growth. I ask you to wrap your arms around this program. I ask you to bring it into your heart and soul. I ask you to be consistent because it is through consistency that your spiritual depth will grow to places you might not even be able to imagine right now. People that have followed this program that I created have done some amazing things in life. We've had individuals that have devoted themselves to complete service of the unwanted in our society due to answers given to them in their own spiritual mental mastermind program. Another client struggling deeply with her session with one of her guides mentioned the benefit of having a support dog after she went through several experiences leading to the diagnosis of PTSD. As she told me many times, she never would have thought of having a dog. She had never had a dog in her whole life, and dogs were not her favorite animals. But when she followed the guide's advice, her whole life opened up immediately. She started to go places with the dog that she would have never gone on her own because of her struggle with PTSD. Answers about what to do with your personal life, or your career, or your relationships, or your addictions, or your low self-confidence, or low self-esteem, or your procrastination, or even your lack of faith. Everything that has a spiritual or religious connotation and everything that does not have a spiritual or religious connotation. Regardless of the challenge, this program will work for everything. I'm so glad that you've joined me on this ride. I would love to hear from you. If you'd ever like to reach out and let me know examples of what you've received through this powerful exercise, please do so through my website, www.davidessel.com. Answers are here. We need to slow down, have patience, and use both our intellect and our spiritual power in order to help ourselves through these difficult times. I am with you. I am so proud of you to take this new project on, to lighten the load, to lift your spirits, and bring you closer than ever to the spiritual and religious strength that you've always wanted to have in life. I, as well, am on this incredible spiritual journey with you. You are never alone. Love, David. And this is really important. At the end of this book, to make it easy for you to get started, we have dedicated 21 pages for you to begin recording your sessions with your spiritual mental mastermind program. Take advantage of this and begin your journey today. End of chapter questions. Remember, do not move forward until you've answered these questions. This is crucially important. Number one, what was covered in detail in this chapter? Number two, of all the topics covered, which one was of most interest to you and why? Number three, what are the specific action steps that you will take in order to strengthen your mental and spiritual health, determination, willpower, and more? Chapter 7. The benefits I have received through this program are simply amazing. I love to read about people, saints, sages, and more, who during their incredible struggles in life all happen to find a grounding spiritual tool to help them through the suffering, to balance, or even inner peace. At first, like myself, it might sound too good to be true, but over time, if you apply this powerful daily exercise in your own life consistently, you will find answers to help you through any and all challenges that you might be facing right now. Be patient. Be persistent. So many of us are still hung up in the, quote, instant gratification mindset, end quote, that we've lost the superpower called patience. When I started the practice that you've read about in this book, I was hopeful that I would receive some benefits, but not to the degree that has happened for me. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, as this is a powerful, quote, primer tool, end quote, which needs to be put into action if we really want to see changes in our life. I love to deepen my spiritual path so that I can help as many people through my own experiences reach the same connection with Source or God or whatever name you choose. Or you may use this exercise as a way to simply decrease stress and feel better about taking quiet time for you, which is excellent. Below are just a few of the benefits I've received over the past 40 years through my own spiritual mental mastermind program. Number one, having the faith to become an entrepreneur instead of staying in the safety zone of working for a corporation. It was advice given to me during one of my quiet sessions with my spiritual mental mastermind partners. Number two, overcoming my failed suicide attempt, which was one of the biggest turnarounds in my life, and my spiritual mastermind group had a lot to do with helping me regain my sense of self. Number three, dealing with the loss of my greyhound, Kona, who I had loved for 13 years. Number four, overcoming the complete loss of income and all of my savings during the 2009 economic shutdown in the United States. Number five, accepting the loss of my greyhound Saint, who I mentioned before, who would become an emotional support dog in my counseling practice, and maybe even as importantly, became my emotional support companion. And it was very difficult losing him. Number six, the rebranding, complete rebranding of our business during COVID. As we were struggling once again to survive, during my sessions, I was given so many incredible tips, ideas, and thoughts that I would write down next to me on my pad of paper every morning. It made a massive difference. Number seven, assisting me in overcoming my 30-year addiction to alcohol and cocaine that began at the age of 12. Number 8, losing my mom 3 years ago. This was by far one of the most challenging experiences I've ever had in my life. Even after working in the world of personal growth with so many different hats for 43 years, I thought I knew what grieving was all about until I lost my mom. It was the biggest wake-up call ever. And without my spiritual mental mastermind program to go to cry to ask for guidance, to ask for solutions to the grief, I'm not sure what I could have done. They taught me that my tears were actually tears of loving my mom so deeply, not just tears of sadness alone. What a beautiful message to receive. That the tears for my mom were actually tears of love. During these sessions, I received the most loving, compassionate words of advice mentally given to me, which again, I would write down and follow just as directed. While I had a very difficult childhood with my mother and father, at the age of 30, my mother and I started to connect at the deepest level ever. She had never stopped loving me. Even though I was an extremely troubled teenager, she never kicked me out of the house. She would reprimand me, punish me, but she never felt that I was a person she couldn't love. She never looked at me as unlovable, even though many times I believed I was. She is my saint. I dedicated my sobriety to her, and I dedicate the rest of my life to helping this world heal, just like she did her whole life. Number 9, losing my dad 2 years ago. A year after my mom died, my father passed away. I never knew what a pillar of strength my father was, even though I knew him for 66 years. During his 4 years of struggling with illness, suffering, and dying, I saw this man with such incredibly deep faith. He opened my eyes, and it was evident I needed to become more like him. I needed to become more measured, more patient. And in these early morning sessions, I would feel the loving energy of both my mother and father. And so I invited them into my group. A lot of people say that they have never felt that, but I do believe everyone can, as long as we're consistently on a daily basis doing exercises like the one in this book. Now, here are some other benefits that have come when my spiritual mental mastermind group gives me answers to my daily challenges. I received in my quiet morning sessions with my mastermind program the following. Number 1, title ideas for new books and concept ideas for new books and programs. Number 2, new markets to go to with my counseling work, and I never would have thought of these on my own. Number 3, the need for more downtime from my work and more fun. That is something they have told me many times. Number 4, if I didn't hear it in one session, I heard it in 100 sessions, that my workaholism is taking over. I'm putting way too much stress on myself to be perfect. It's a challenge that I've had to work on all the time, but through this early morning mastermind program, there have been dramatic changes in my life and the way I approach work, income, and more. I am so filled with gratitude for what I've received from these mentors. Number 5, getting help from another therapist for some anxiety that was coming up on a regular basis. During one of my morning groups, I was directed to find an expert in anxiety. I did, and she helped me immensely. Number 6, I wanted to take my spiritual path even deeper, and during one of these sessions, I was encouraged to learn the art of meditation via Zen Buddhism. Now, I've followed all kinds of Buddhist practice, but never Zen. I was excited to get this message, and since that morning, I have been working with Sensei Andy Hasaki Solis and the powerful walking and seated meditation that Zen Buddhism offers. I am a searcher, and I bet you are too, or you would not have picked up this book. I am still learning, I am still growing, and I have a long way to go to reach where I'm supposed to be on this planet. But I will not give up. I will not back down, regardless of the challenges I face. I will continue to be open-minded to new tools like this one, new techniques that we can all use to help this world heal. The world is grieving. The world is hurting. The world is suffering. And yes, we have answers with programs like this that can really help alleviate so much of what we're going through. If you ever need me, simply reach out through my website. Wishing you an incredible day. Wishing you mornings filled with gratitude and peace. Love, David. This book means the world to me. And having it now in Audible and print form is crucial to, I think, helping as many people that we can become deeper in their spiritual path, more confident in the mentors they've chosen, and simply more ecstatic of the fact that they don't have to figure out life anymore on their own. You do not have to figure out life anymore on your own. This is the perfect program to get you started and to get you moving in a direction that you know is the right direction for you. And if your guides give you advice that seems kind of crazy, wacky, or whatever, follow it anyway. Just like the woman with the PTSD that didn't like dogs, and she got the dog, and her life completely changed. And just like with myself, with my grieving of my mom especially, oh my gosh, at the 10-month mark, my mastermind group was so adamant that morning to get out and start digging. And I had this big courtyard. I pulled up all of these cement blocks that were on the ground of the courtyard, and I had nothing but dirt. And I started digging. I dug about 8 to 10 hours in one day to make this massive garden. And do you want to know something? Waking up every day and going out and sitting for my meditation group right next to the garden with the flowers representing my mother and father, one of the greatest pieces of advice anyone could have ever given me came from a group in the spiritual world. Just think about that. I'm wishing you the best. If I ever can help you, if you'd like to work one-on-one to deepen your spiritual path, if you'd like to work one-on-one to really get this program and the book down, just contact me at davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. And always remember, you're never alone. I am always with you. And the spirit world is always with you as well. Have the most beautiful day. I'm David Essel.